Welcome to today's Bite-Size PD on Microbit Classroom. Today is December 18th, 2024. As a reminder, our professional learning norms are be committed, be responsible, be respectful, and be safe. So as you are going through the Bite-Size PD today, I would love it if you could look through these and decide which one you can focus on for the day. Our learning intentions and success criteria today are: I am learning about Microbit Classrooms so that I can get a basic understanding of how to set up a class and use it with my students. Our success criteria: I'll know I've learned about them when I can understand the basic functions and features of Microbit Classroom and can use those to support my classroom in learning microbits. Looking at our MTSS framework, we're focusing on high quality teaching and learning with scaffolding as our example. And our rationale is that we are using coding to build computer science vertical alignment in 3rd through 12th grades. So looking forward into our agenda, we are going to review what microbits are, and then we'll go into Microbit Classroom for a bit, and then we will wrap up. So first, I already did a Microbit PD earlier on this year about what microbits were, but let's go ahead and go through it one more time, just very basic, so that you can get a basic understanding before we move on to the classroom bit. So what are microbits? Microbits are this little robot over here on the left-hand side, and basically they are small programmable computers that are designed for educational use. They have LEDs, buttons, and sensors enabling the creation of interactive projects like games and robots. Students can explore computing and electronics in an engaging, hands-on way. So these little guys are about $25 to $30, depending on where you purchase them. But they have immense power when it comes to coding. So I'm not going to show you this video right now, but if you choose, you can go back into the slideshow and watch it to kind of see what that looks more like. When we're looking at our features of microbits, if you click here, it's going to give you more depth of what these features are, but notice that there are a lot of things that these microbits can do. They have a microphone, they have an antenna that can take radio signal, they've got microphones that can record voice, they've got buttons A and B that kids can move back and forth. They actually have pins here that can be added into different locations or have things connected to those, and they've got a speaker, they've got processors, so they've just got a lot of power to them. LED lights that you can see here, etc. All right, so we're going to go into the Microbit Classroom at this point. When we're looking at Microbit Classroom, there's two ways to get to it. So you could go to microbit.org, click on Teach, and click on Teaching Tools. Or the second way is that you can go into Microbit Classroom and get an intro here by going to that microbit.org, use the Getting Started and clicking on User Guide, and down here is that Microbit Classroom. So just two different ways to access it. The information will all take you back into this Getting Started guide. I'm going to take you into the Microbit Classroom now so that we can start looking into the features of Microbit Classroom, and I'll take you into these projects and lessons. But before I do that, I want to cover what a project and a lesson is. So if we are looking at lessons, they are very structured learning experiences that guide the users through specific coding concepts and techniques. Okay, they often have that step-by-step instruction and examples. When you're looking at the project, those are more custom creation where the users can apply what they learned and learned in those concepts to build specific things, like a game or a device. So they have more freedom to design and experiment. So a lot of times it's good to take them into these lessons where they're learning that step by step, and then go into those projects where they can build or use those concepts that they learned in lessons to build their projects. So once you get to classroom.microbit.org, you will notice that there are the four options that I mentioned prior. So the first one being opening that last session, continue a saved session, that blank session, which is if you want to just start from scratch, or if you have a project in mind that you want to do with them that is in their projects or lessons, you can do that here. So I'm just going to go into projects for right now. And notice that if you go into projects, there are different activities that the students can do. Notice that there are make code options, Python options, or technically Scratch options. For the younger kids, I would highly suggest doing the make code. Once you get into those older grades, Python could be a great option. So I'm going to show you how it works with this beating heart right here. When we do this beating heart, you can come in here. This is a link that you may want to share with the students. When you share it with the students, it will give them the introduction of what it looks like. It will give you the coding guide so it teaches them how to do it. It will give the how it works, what they need in order to be able to do it, and it even gives them what codes are needed. Okay, notice that you can come here. So the students, if they are just doing it on their own, they'd probably want to click on the open and make code, or if you're doing it with the microbit classroom, which is what we're talking about today, that is going to be this open in classroom. So we're going to go ahead and click on that open in classroom. Notice it's giving it a project name. You can choose between make code or Python. For this, we're going to use make code. And then it's going to give a code starter. So what this means is this is the code that is automatically given to students once they have joined. So you can go in and edit that if you'd like to, or you can leave it blank, and that's when they would go to the link that I showed you prior, and you would be able to, and then they could work through the process there. Another option, well, not another option, but so while this is the starter link, this is the code link or the coding that you are hoping that they get to, are these items here. So you could now come up and start the lesson right here, or you could edit this to give them more options of what they're doing. So for example, if I gave them the option that they are going to need the basics and they are going to need a show icon with a big heart, and then they're going to need possibly that show icon again, and they're going to need a little heart, and then you may also be telling them that they're probably going to want that pause. Oops, not an arrow. So you could technically put those out there for them so that when they come here, then they can say, or then they can see exactly what they need, or you may start them with nothing. I'm going to start with these right here just so you can kind of see what that looks like. So if I go back to the setup, now notice it's showing that I'm adding those items in there for them to use. Okay, so here's the final product that they're still going to have to figure out, but you could give them a head start. So now I'm clicking on that start session. When I start the session, notice it pops up with what I gave to begin with. If you decide that you don't like that, you can come back to that setup at any time and you can change that code that you want them to use, or again, you could change that completed project code as well. So now this is the code that they're using. On your end, if you'd like to edit your code, this would be you editing your code. You could click on edit code right here. And the reason you may want to do this is because once you've added this code, you've edited this code, you could make it so you could share it with those students. So if I edited the code and I'm saying I'm actually going to put that show icon in there, and then I'm going to pause this for 500 milliseconds. So that would be considered a half second. And then show this icon, and I'm actually going to duplicate that one, throw that in, and then I have that other one. So if at any time you wanted to give them, I'm going to change this to 100 so they have to do something, but you could show this, and then you could actually send this code to the students. So now notice that's the code I have. I'm going to show you what it looks like on a student end. So I can come here, notice it says on the left-hand side, no students have joined yet. This is where you'll see all of your students. So if I click on that copy invite link, okay, it now says that my invite link has been copied. If you want to try this on your own, you could do the same thing by coming into an incognito window. Okay, so now I've got that student window up. I'm going to just kind of put them side by side so we can switch back and forth. So I'm pasting that link in. You could put that link in Canvas or Google Classroom if you choose to. And now notice it automatically is going through the weather, so login information. They don't have to put in any identifying information. So right here, instead of having them do their full name, maybe you're having them do like a student number like 23. So that doesn't give any identifying information of who that student is, so you don't have to worry about safety purposes. So now that student could join the session. Notice it's got him right here, or her right here, with that they are considered number 23. It pulls up the microbit. It pulls up all of my advanced searches so they could add stuff to it, and it pulls in that code that I already gave them. You could do that. If they decide to use it, great. If they don't, maybe they want to make it themselves, or maybe they wanted to do something else because you're giving them some free will to do what they want to do. Maybe they are doing the show LED lights and they are going to make their own, something like this. I'm just going to put that in there. Okay, so they are now making their own. You can see what they're doing at any time. So on your screen, you may see, here's me right here, okay? But you can see this 23, and you can see what code they're doing. So if you do need to help them, you could send them a code that you created. The problem with that is that if you do send them the code, it is overwriting that student's work. So they just made this like Y type thing. If I send them that code, it is going to overwrite that student's work. All right. I think actually this is where I want to send it from, because this would be that I'm sending 23's code to somebody else. This is that I'm sending either all students or to 23 and send my code. So you would do it right here. And then I could send that code. If I sended that code over, notice it's asking, do you want to keep that code and accept it, or do you want to keep your own code? If I accept that code, now that student has the code that I have sent them. So this is one way that they could get help from you, but know that it is kind of doing it, you doing it for them versus them working on it. Other things that you want to know, the student could raise their hand. If they raise their hand, notice that hand will show up on the teacher's side. You could come here, hit those three dots, and you could lower their hand, or once you look at it, it's automatically going to lower on its own. Okay, you could save the session here if you want to. Save that session here if you want to, and then you could end your session once you are done with it. So once you've ended that session, notice you can, like I said, you can save and end it. If you do save it, it's going to go into your downloads that you could continue a saved session, and then you could select that file that it downloads. Or again, you could open your last session, which is the session I'm currently in. If a student, notice this, because I ended that session, notice it says the student or the teacher has ended your session. So they could leave if they wanted to. Okay. And if they get the link again, so if I invite them again, copy that student invite link, okay, and bring it back into here, they could rejoin my session. Let's see if it will show you. So if they search for their name, their name was 23, if they join that session, now it brings them back into the work that they have done prior. Okay. Notice that because we created this code, it is going to show over here. If at any time they want to stop that code, just like normal microbit, they can click on the stop button, rework their code, and then play it again. They can also, once they've created their code, come down here, make sure that their microbit is connected by connecting that device, and then hit the download. If you want more about that kind of information, go and watch my first bite-sized PD, and it will give you everything that you need. Notice too that right now we are on the the make code. They could technically bring it over into JavaScript and see what that looks like. So that's kind of cool. So as they're coding, they're starting to learn what it looks like with the drag and drop versus with make code versus what it looks like when they have actual typing. All right, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you with this. Oh yeah, one last thing, okay. It is kind of cool. You are able to change the language. So if you are doing this in a Spanish class, you could technically change it into Spanish, and the information will change here. So that's kind of cool. Notice Microbit Classroom doesn't change because that's the title of it, but it does change everything else to the language that they need. And then they could change it back. All right, so once you've done that, I'm going to close out of this for now. Notice that now it says that student 23 is offline. Again, you could come and set things up, change, and show what it looks like. You could edit this. I'm just going to go in now into classroom.microbit.org one more time. So that was using it from a project or a lesson. Notice here too, you could use a blank session. If you use a blank session, you're basically building it completely from scratch. So you would want to put that completed code in here so that you know what they're doing. But where the projects and lessons have those lesson plans for them that they could look and follow along with it, this doesn't. So you may, if students are starting to get really good, you may come here and give them instructions and say, I want you to build a microphone that you can program. Then they could come in here, start from blank, and then you could watch how they are going through that process. All right, so that is our microbit lesson. Let's go back into Canva, and let's go back into our learning intentions and success criteria. So our learning intention is that I am learning about Microbit Classroom so that I can get a basic understanding of how to set up a class and use it with my students. And then the success criteria is I'll know I learned about them when I can understand the basic functions and features of Microbit Classroom and can use those to support my classroom in learning by microbits. Okay, so for today, I would love you to create an action plan of taking something that you learned today. Maybe you want to focus in on those lessons and projects and find something that interests you and then figure out how you can implement it into your classroom. I'd love it if you could write down, I will commit to, and then write down what you're going to commit to. All right, I am Chandra Martz. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me. Have a great day.